All righty. Hey there. Welcome. Today I'm here as part of Healthy Sales Leader with two of my faves. We got Coach Jason Fry, and we've got Robert Washington, one of the most motivational Microsoft sellers I've ever met. So really excited to be here with these two fine gentlemen today. We want to really dive in because being a healthy sales leader is all about being healthy mentally and physically while we're also grappling with the challenges of being in sales leadership, being frontline sellers. And let's call it what it is. Right now is a very challenging time. There's a lot of challenges for salespeople. The economic climate is very drastically different than it's been for the last couple of years. And so we're having to adjust and pivot, and at the same time also maintain from a physicality perspective, continue to grow, continue to learn, and be the best version of ourselves. So, want to talk to these guys today about how they do that. Robert, I'm going to turn it to you first. I know and first off, I'm going to tell you all in advance. Robert's workouts are very intense. This guy is motivational, very disciplined, and really excited to hear what he has to say. I'm going to throw the first question to you, Robert. How do you manage work-life stress and maintain a healthy balance between personal and professional life?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Carson. So it's a good one for me because as you see behind me, I have a pretty busy family. I have five boys, and me and my wife recently just had our sixth child, which is a girl. So that's an ongoing task that never, changes, right? Trying to find that balance. And so for me, it's about maintaining good relationships. And I find the balance through always, I guess, finding ways to nourish and keep these relationships flourish. So I was recently doing some research, and I ran across an article. It was around the Harvard Business Review, and they did the Harvard some group of researchers in Harvard did a study around adult development. So it's the longest study of adult development. So over 75 years, they studied 724 men, and they want to understand what keeps them happy, right? And so they went into these people's houses, very social environments. They studied them all the way into, near death. And it was crazy because the number one thing that kept them happy and kept them balanced and healthy and fulfilled was relationships. So we for me it's like instead of chasing the tangibles, I always look for the intangibles that's going to lead to the tangibles. So some of the things I do every day is I just make time for other people, which helps fulfill my bucket. So I block 15 to 20 minutes per day on my calendar, and I use that as an opportunity to connect with other folks and you know uplift others, but also draw from their experience, but to pour into others. And that to me keeps me balanced when it comes to about navigating life. Because if I'm too if I'm too focused on work, then that bucket around friends and family is not getting filled. So I try continuously to try to make time for others, build relationships with others, which helps me show up to work every single day and also helps me show up at home every single day because I'm one of my priorities is being growing closer to my friends and my family and my colleagues. So I know that was kind of long and but I know that was kind of long, but I guess to wrap it all up, it's the relationships, just really managing relationships with others.
That's powerful. I mean, sometimes, if you get pulled into a lot of different things, relationships can almost go on a back burner. And that's the problem. That's when they start to go awry, when we stop investing daily
Hmm.
and regularly in those relationships. I love that you have discipline around finding intentional time to connect.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
extremely meaningful. Jay, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Man, number one, Robert hit on the point that I try to do with my kids, and I didn't think about doing it more so from relationship, from businesses standpoints as well as I try to spend 15 minutes with each kid, like just alone, like it's just me and
Hmm.
that kid every day, 15 minutes. Because you know what, they don't want more than that. They
Hmm.
really don't. I got a 16-year-old. He doesn't even want 15 minutes, right? But I got to force it and make sure that that happens. And so, I mean, to your point, if we can tie off some time as well in the business section and just to give a compliment. I was talking with my brother today who's like, man, somebody gave me a compliment and I forgot how good it felt.
Wow.
So that switched his focus to, okay, well, compliment. Maybe I should compliment more. And so I think, to your point with relationships, that's what it comes down to. That's why we built the Healthy Leader and the Healthy Sales Leader, was to build a community so that relationships get formed. The other piece that I wanted to say was, for me, it's really hard. Somebody shifted my mindset a long time ago and said, there's no such thing as work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a work-life rhythm, and you have to create a rhythm like a heartbeat, right? You have to create that rhythm, because you're going to spend 8 to 10 hours at work. You're going to spend 8 hours maybe sleeping, right? So that's going to leave just 6 hours for your family. While you're commuting, you're doing all these different things. So now the family gets less. So there's no such thing as the balance. It's what can I bring to the table? What kind of energy can I bring when I do come home? What do my kids see me do in responses to other things? So that's been a real focus for me. It's just trying to find and create a rhythm that works for my wife and I, for the family. And like I'm nowhere near you yet, Robert. So I'm focused on trying to get to that level of being able to have that.
I've seen the videos of Robert's workouts, so yeah, I'm nowhere near him either. But you said something interesting there, Jason. Look, recognition's free. It takes a moment to say thank you, to send a note, to thank someone and copy their manager and their manager's manager, and spotlight their achievement, what they're giving. It takes a moment to make a social post, a LinkedIn post, and say brag about what this person has done, or even just to call them up and say thank you. Those things take a moment. I love that so much. You also said the word mindset. Mindset is so critical when it comes to these elements, and I've noticed that I've struggled a lot with finding that work life rhythm over the years. But we're always work in progress. You think about the people and the things that you prioritize, and you just try to make sure you're intentional with your investment in them every day. And a mindset can really help you when you're approaching some of these challenging situations in sales and sales leadership. I mean, I got to tell you, even today, like things being thrown left and right, things that need immediate response, or at least that's the thought, like, because there's a fear inside of us. We tense up in those moments. It can be, oh, well, if I don't reply to this immediately, then there's going to be a challenge. And then another similar situation pops up, and then another one stacks up on top of that. How do you approach those situations of tension, adversity, stress? How do you approach them with a growth mindset and be present? Jason, I'm going to go to you first.
Oh, man.
I love that.
Breathe.
I love that.
Breathe.
Breathe.
Obviously, that's one of our pillars. That's one of our cores. But it's one of those things that breath allows you to, the more you exhale, the more you actually trigger your heart to slow down, the sympathetic system. So we want to do that. So if you're about to receive terrible feedback or whatever it is, and stress, you feel that, well, just focus on the longer exhale compared to the inhale. And so that helps a ton. The other piece about stress is just almost having a response ahead of time. Now, because it allows you to think about beforehand, but what it also does is it eliminates the possibility of you accepting something you don't want to accept. And so I think that's been a really thing, is like it's a hard no or a hard stop, or, I don't drink during the week. Like when you say I don't, that says that anytime somebody brings up this, I just don't. So it's almost like having this idea of I've got my decision ahead of time. So when the choice comes, it's an easy choice to make.
I like that.
Robert.
Robert.
I love what Jason just said. I mean, breathe, because in that breath, what you can do is you can take a step back and create space between you and that activity that can cause stress. I think sometimes we're too attached to these things and we react emotionally or irrational to these things because we're so close to it. But if you create space between you and that thing, that situation, now you can see the thing from an outside perspective. And it's like, Carson, if me and you were standing next to each other and I swung on you and I'm right next to you, you'll probably swing back. But if I'm 20 feet away and I swung on you, you're going to laugh at me like, what is this guy doing, right? But I think a lot of times we don't create that space between us and that thing mentally to be able to take that breath, take that step back,
Yeah.
and actually analyze it from an outside perspective, right? Because a lot of things we don't have to react to. Some things we just be still, but we're so reactive. And for me, I'm a fixer, so I want to react sometimes, and I gotta constantly pull myself back. Hey, Robert, what is this trying to teach me? What's the lesson in this message, right?
And
Beautiful.
Carson, for you, what's your thoughts on that? How do you
Yeah.
manage that stress?
Yeah, it's funny. It actually reminded me what you guys were talking about something my pastor said that really stuck with me a while back. And it's, may the urgency with which I approach my work never
Mm,
become anxiety. The world is not mine to save.
mm,
And so what I loved about what you guys said, it's kind of given that opportunity, given that space, take a step back, look at the balcony view. What
mm,
do I need to do? What's the reality here? Because I got to tell you, these things that are so urgent in the moment or what my brain tells me is urgent, they're not.
mm,
And in fact, reacting from a place of reactionary or emotion is probably going to have a lesser result than the reality if I can take a step back and really look at things holistically, look at things thoroughly, and make the right decision forward from a place of confidence and strength as opposed to
mm.
emotion. Um, Speaking of, so, I think a lot of stress comes from change. And sometimes I think we joke because, change is inevitable. It's one of the only constants, right? So the fact that change is inevitable in sales today, that can cause a lot of stress, and it can take its toll on our sales leaders who want to be healthy in mind and body, right? So when things change, how do you lean back into the discipline that you've created? How do you lean in to your priorities? How do you address change and navigate through these in a way that you can adapt effectively? Robert, I'm going to go to you first this time.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, it's all of our lessons have already been, we've studied this before in our previous life. So for me, it's I go back and I think about how I've navigated similar change in my previous life, and I try to reciprocate because we've have success standards that we've already done that are very similar, but we got to go back and we got to look at that. And so from that point, I mean, because change is not going to stop, right? Like you said, it's inevitable. We just got to keep showing up, right? And so every day I continue to show up, and do continue to show up, there's a mess, and within that mess, there's a message for me, and I take that message and I learn and grow from there. So it's a combination of continue to show up, but also you've navigated change before. Like for example, my when I left the military, uh, after 10 years, um, I was like, this is a huge leap of faith for me,
Yeah.
right? Just giving up, I was a single father at the time, leaving the military with nothing, no money, anything. But I joined the military with nothing, right? So I was like, I've been here before. And then so when I take these leaps of faith, I'm like, I've already been here,
Yeah.
right? This not affect me. I've done this before. So you build confidence through navigating um, to understand that you've been there before, right? And I think a lot of times we don't take the time to really study ourselves to see, like, what can I learn from myself to help me get through this moment, right? I hope that makes sense.
100%. I'm definitely tracking with you. Jason, I want to get your thoughts, but I also want you to roll into your philosophy around training camp, how you
Mm,
turn training camp into everyday life. So what are your thoughts on change? And then, roll that into your training camp philosophy.
Yeah. Well, number one, I love the idea from a training camp standpoint for Robert. So I want to get
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tie and how we can actually tie
beautiful.
those two together. But from a change standpoint, I had three things down. One that goes with what Robert said, but it's a cookie jar mentality.
mm,
Okay, you're always up there and you're reaching. So when you grow up, or we grew up, the cookie jar was on top of the refrigerator. All you had to do
mhm,
was just get on those
yeah,
tippy toes and then reach in there and grab it. Well, the thing is, the key is to be able to have that collection of wins that you've
mm,
had. And so that goes into anytime I struggle, anytime I have something that is a wall that's in front of me and I can't get around it, all I got to do is go up to that cookie jar and grab that success that's happened before and go, yo, I've done this. Like, this isn't new.
Yeah.
And so, because adversity and change is always happening, uncertainty is always happening, that means we're always having the ability to reach in the cookie jar. But enough people don't do the second piece, which is that writing, that journaling piece of occurring. So then I know that I've done it before. Most people don't know how many wins they've actually created. And so the goal is just to go back into it and go, okay, well, I've done this before, I've done that before. When did I fail? When did I succeed? When did I hit walls? And then be able to write, well, I made it through every single one of those. That's the coolest part. We've all survived it. But now, do we learn from it? Do we have a cookie jar? So the journal and the cookie jar. And then the last thing is, Robert was in the military, so he knows the AAR method. So we're always looking at trying to reflect, trying to go, okay, this is what happened. How do we get better? And so one of the things that they're actually shifting the AAR, the after action reviews, is now they're adding one more piece is, what is the story that I'm telling when I'm leaving? So what is the story that I'm telling of the conversation I had with you guys today as I go up the stairs? What is the story that I'm telling about the conversation I had with the boss that was really difficult? What am I actually telling myself up here? So if we can see that, because that's going to be what actually carries us to growth. That's going to be something. So if we can frame our stories to make sure that we are learning about what actually happened, what they said, not how they said it, then we actually have a chance at really moving that needle forward.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So training camp, my ideas is, what am I doing from a training standpoint to then go into taking that over to work, into taking that into the things that I'm doing. And, off-site, off camera, we talked about, consistency being a major key. One of the coolest things that I heard about Floyd Mayweather was that a buddy went to him and watched him, and he said it was crazy. Floyd was always in the mentality of punching. So even on his water break, he's sitting there drinking water and he's just still hitting the bag. And it was just that mentality piece of, this is what I'm here to do. And so I think that from a training camp standpoint is us being mindful and having this plan and creating one and going, this is what we're going to do. And then we're going to be able to adapt and go, this is what feels right. This is what feels wrong. This was what I can do. This is what feels better. So I think that being able to take how we're practicing off work and then take those principles and move them to work. I think that's probably one of the most important things.
I love that. I mean, we got to build our lives around what fuels us, and we've got to infuse as much as of what we're passionate about into that life. It's all about, picking your people, right? You got to figure out who are your people in your personal life. You got to invest in those relationships. You got to invest in yourself. You got to make sure you've got that time. Sometimes, and I'd love to hear, as we kind of come to a close, I'd love to hear you guys' routines. How you intersperse your healthy habits mentally, physically, and into your day-to-day and your work. Me personally, I set my alarm very early, usually like 4:30. I'm up. In the pandemic, I created a home gym. Very fortunate to have that. And so I'm doing the weights, the treadmill, the bike, all that stuff while I'm taking in, because I live in a household with a wife and 3 little girls. So, well, one's not so little. She's a teenager now, but they control the remote. So if I want to watch something I want to watch, I got to watch it while I'm doing the gym, right? So I'll do that. I might listen to some audio books, podcasts, things that are going to fuel me, get me going, get me motivated for the day. I got to have that time. It's essential. Then it's rolling in to spending time with the wife, with the kids, getting people ready for school, and then it's immersing in the work day. And it can be very chaotic, but I got to tell you, what fuels me is feeling like I'm making a difference, the relationships, and also the winning. I love what you said, Jay, about the cookie jar, like going back and like looking at, okay, I've been here before, I've done this, I know how to do it, I can see around corners better now because of what happened in the past. And it's funny, like I was tired yesterday, and 8 o'clock last night, somebody's pinging me about a big deal, and I just like I'm lit up immediately. I call them, and I'm like, walking through this deal structure, and I love working with people, and those types of things fuel me. It's not to say that there aren't days where you feel like sales or frankly just life beats you down, but as long as you approach it from a position of, hey, I can do this. I have been doing it. Or if you're relatively new to this and you're kind of, paying your dues for the first time or getting your chops busted, take it all into perspective because on the other end of this crucible, you're going to turn out to be a better version of yourself. And those are the words that I tell myself every day. Robert, I'm going to go to you and then Jay, bring us home.
Yeah, no, no, I think, the habits and routine is about, you have to make it a priority for me is, and my sister told me something, she's really high ranking in the military right now. She told me something a long time ago that stuck with me and it stuck with me and it was, Robert, when you start to add additional things into your life, like kids and things of that nature and different activities, your time is not your time anymore. So you have to make time for yourself. So that's where that 5 o'clock in the morning comes in to play. And so, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. And, so part of my habits, I built a habit somebody reached out to me, what technology are you using to post every day on LinkedIn? I said, me, that's the technology. I wake up, it's a part of my habits, so, and what I do, I build habits that's going to help me, fulfill my goals by helping other people. So, one thing I do first thing in the morning is I pray, I meditate, but after my meditation, I start to create some type of thoughts. These thoughts drive some type of emotion, and sometimes I use some type of music or something like that. But I start to think about something that's going to drive emotion, that's going to build momentum to create some type of post or some type of inspirational thing to give back to others. So it's and then I go work out and things of that nature early in the morning. So I get a lot of stuff done before people even wake up, right? I'm giving back to myself, I'm giving back to others. I'm learning in the moment, I'm working out, and at 8 o'clock, most people just get out the bed and I've completed half of my day. So, but these habits are habits that help me get to where I'm at right now in life, right? So the balance to me and just in life is also found in just creating those habits that's aligned to where you're trying to go, in life. So I found a couple really good habits that really helps me in a way that I'm able to give back to others, but also I'm able to give back to myself. So that's just kind of my morning routine. I know it was kind of everywhere, but that's kind of what I do
That's
on a daily
life.
basis.
I love it. What about you, Jay?
Man, you know what? I started Healthy Leader with a focus of going, okay, it has to be this way, right? And it was I wake up with breath work, I immediately go into exercise, and then I read and
Mhm.
then I reflect. And then I started doing certain things and messing with it and researching and like learning after exercise is your highest amount
Mhm.
of retainment. And so all I got to do is go, okay, I'm going to read after I work out. So that's kind of the non-negotiable, whatever it is. I want to do that piece. And then I got to where it was one of those things of I was doing my breath work early in the morning, but it didn't transfer over to the change I wanted to feel. And so
Mhm.
then I said, okay, well, I got to work out at 6. And then what that means is then I've got to automatically do my breath work immediately following my workout because you don't want the same mentality, the same exact energy that you need and do for your workout for the relationships that you have. So you need to down regulate sometimes. Sometimes you need to up regulate in terms of your breathing. So it's just kind of dependent on the situations that you need. And so it's just being more aware of what does my schedule look like and can I make that work outside of my non-negotiables, my morning wake up, this is what's happening. So I think that it's finding that rhythm. Everybody always says you got to wake up super early. I do. I'm in both your boats. I'm a 4:30 wake up guy, and so then I get to how can I serve? I do exactly what
Mhm.
Robert's trying to do. I want to serve, so I personally send out every message every morning
Mhm.
to my people, so that to the community, so that I kind of hold myself accountable to what I need to do. I don't want to automate it because I want to do it and say, hey, look, I'm showing up. And that's all I want to continue practicing.
That's
I like
powerful.
that.
I love that,
I
Jay.
love
That's
that.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Something that hit me, like, especially while you two were talking, is a couple of themes really jumped out. Like, first off, look, just move. There's a mantra that I heard a few years back, and it was just move. It's like your movement, your health, what you're doing, it's going to look different than mine, than Jason's, than Robert's. But here's the thing, it could be I'm on a conference call and I go out and take a walk, right? Or I hop on the treadmill, or like I got a stepping machine right here in my office. I got a standing desk last year. Just different things that you can do just to be active and be up, and just like walking around punching. I'm like Tom Cruise in A Few Good Men. I got a baseball bat back here. Sometimes on conference calls I'll be talking about deals and I'm walking around swinging a bat, right?
Yeah.
So just get active. Your movement, that's the key thing, because it feeds right into what Jay said about learning after exercise has the highest retainment. That is a quotable right there. And then every day, like, I'll carve out my non-negotiables while I'm in the gym in the morning. Like, that's when I'm like writing these things down. Things I have to get done today that will make me have a day of achievement if I knock them out. And then I make that my priority, because we're always going to get pulled in a million different directions, period. But it's the things that we prioritize. And you know what? Put your wife and kids on your list of non-negotiables. You want to buy your wife some flowers? You want to, carve out some time to grab a bite to eat with her? Whatever it is, those are the types of, that's the intentionality that's going to make you a success. And ultimately maintain, because we're always calibrating, maintain your status as a healthy sales leader. Guys, this was awesome. Thank you so much. And we got to do this again soon, but really appreciate you both. And we'll see you next time on Healthy Sales Leader.
Peace out, guys.